I thought about this video for a while, which I'm going to be doing. Memorial Day, of course, just come and gone, where this country is celebrating those who laid down their lives for this country, training, deployments, combat, accidents, sickness, and that's a lot of people. So, American Legion, and wow, I just did it. The American Legion sent me this magazine, cover up my name. The military fights for qualified recruits. The few. This is called from the American Legion magazine. American Legion. Got in country since 1919. Well, I've been reading on Yahoo and some of the other media things, and they're complaining about the military. Well, actually, the media really don't care about the military unless it's maybe some way of insulting the military, or because they're, whatever the misconception is. The reason why that the American military for the last 10 to 15 years has dropped in recruitment, consider a big drop. I mean, it's like, in the 2000s it was like this. After 9/11 it was like this. And then after 2015 it went like this, and then all the way down. It is because that our youth that's been brainwashed. Everything from the media, cell phones, anti-Trump rhetoric, the belief that the Republicans is running the military like a mercenary force and a Nazi organization. And if you looked at today's youth, especially from the millennials on up, they're too busy with having the hipster beards, the man buns, wearing women's pants, having all these ridiculous tattoos tattooed all over their faces and their necks. And they're socialists, they're commies, but yet they won't vote, and they believe that Obama helped usher in a new era of woke and Black Lives Matter, the anti-white establishment, all this other stuff. So they get it in their head, and then they pass it on to the Z generation people, the 18, 19, 20-year-olds. They rather get a liberal arts degree than work in a hipster cafe for 2 days out of the week at part-time and then collect SSI from some miracle mental health problem that they have. There's more millennials and Z generation on the SSI rolls than it has been in any previous generations since Social Security first started. And that's a known fact. If you don't believe me, don't be lazy. You don't need a frickin' link. Type it in. And then it'll show you the ages between 18 to 30, 35, and they're... So they got it in their head is that they think instead of them protesting against the wars, we have really no wars going on right now. We just walked out of Afghanistan with our tail between our legs, just like we did in Iraq. When we got out of Iraq, we lost both conflicts. Yeah, we conquered the Iraqi army, but, then we lost the insurgency. We lost. and their government is still weak. And the same thing happened to Afghanistan. So now we're sticking our faces in Syria, Africa, and, everywhere else. So the millennials and the Z-Gens got this weird idea in their fucking heads thinking there's going to be a draft. Okay, I know of a couple of friggin' meatheads that I know of. They keep believing that the draft will come back. And I said, the draft's never going to come back, dude. It's never going to come back. It's, just like we did in Iraq and Afghanistan, they just kept rotating units through. I mean, I myself went on 3 deployments. So they get this misconception of they're going to be drafted, they're going to be forced into the military. So what do? They get on SSI or they're tattooed their faces, claim they got mental health problems, and so that way they can stay out of the military from a draft. So overall, this country's in trouble. It is because you got jackweeds like Obama. I did my last 6 months of service with Obama and Obama's administration. And they decided to kick out all the combat veterans because, they're toxic. They're toxic soldiers and sailors and Marines. They're toxic. We got to get rid of the toxic people. Oh. So now, these people rather be transgenders. They rather, take hormone shots. I mean, try to avoid going in the military. The military is not for the weak at heart. It's for some, the idea originally was, it's supposed to be patriotic, but, there's no patriotism in this country anymore. This country's in the shithole, and it's going further and further down. So the American Legion's numbers are suffering. The VFW numbers are suffering. The VFW specifically, you can only join the VFW if you're a war veteran. I think I've done a video on this before, about 3 or 4 years ago, 5 years ago. But, this is after reading the news. And it seems like the World War II guys that was in the VFW gave, with the Korean War veterans, they gave the Vietnam veterans a hard time. They called them hippies. They were in a police action, all this other stuff. So they gave them a lot of garbage. They gave them a lot of shit, made them not welcome. Then as the late 70s and 80s roll in, the World War II guys can no longer be in charge of the VFW or the American Legion. So, and the Korean War guys don't want to deal with it because there's very few Korean War veterans that are in the VFW or the American Legion. So it passes on to the Vietnam vets. So, the Vietnam veterans, what did they do in the 80s and 90s? They treat the guys from Grenada, Panama, Lebanon, Desert Storm, Somalia, they treated them like shit. Made them unwelcome. I have not met a single veteran from Grenada, Panama. I met one Desert Storm guy in the VFW, but nobody from Somalia, Bosnia, or Kosovo. So they treat them like shit, and that way they don't join because it wants to be an all Vietnam veteran club. They don't want to lose their thunder, And guys, Vietnam was over 50 years ago, almost 60 years ago. And you figure that these assholes would kind of get the idea not to treat the newer generation veterans like shit, or nobody's going to take over when they die. So the VFW numbers and the American Legion is right in the toilet. So that's also the reason why. So that's why the American military is in a lot of trouble right now. It's in the shithole, and it's going to continue to do so. We're building and buying billion-dollar aircraft carriers, but in a few short years, there won't be anybody left in the Navy to run the damn things. That's the reason why. This is what this video is about. It's all about these liberal-minded, crybaby crybaby Z generation, and millennial hipster types. Tattoos on their face. They want to inject themselves with different kinds of hormones. They think the military is run by Republicans or Radpublicans or Trumpers or a secret society or the Illuminati because they're incapable of doing any kind of physical labor. I've seen what these people look like. The guys are thin, skinny, sickly-looking vegans with these big-ass hipster beards. The women, thin, weird-looking, or fat, and they got tattooed faces. And they all got mental health problems. And the women have 2 or 3 kids by the time they're 23 and 24 years old. I don't want to join the military. I got a liberal arts degree. I want to get a 6-figure job, which is not available. Who's going to pay a brand new 24-year-old out of college with a liberal arts degree a 6-year figure job that you only require one to work 1 day out of the week? Not going to happen. So, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, veterans, non-veterans, and whatever you say, this is Jeff the Hat, Jeff the Pharaoh, Jeff the Dead Rabbit, Jeff the Jerk. And I'm just throwing in my 2 cents after what I just read about the American Legion magazine I just got in the mail today. So, we are in trouble. But since I'm going to be 60 in another month and a half, I ain't going to care, because by the time that this country goes deeper down the rabbit hole in the American military, lack of people in it, I'm going to be too old and too decrepit to give a shit. This is me signing off to y'all. And I'm saying, holy cow, look at the numbers. Who?